we take a lot of pride in our work. I think you would agree with that.
Yes, for sure.
And when it comes to things, all things business ownery, right? It's like how we treat our clients, the quality of work that we put out, the entire process, like those are the nuts and bolts, the dirt, the grit of every single one of our conversations since the
Yeah, and
beginning.
I think that's one of the reasons why our conversations have continued as long as they have. We both care so much about that, about the process, about the experience that our customers have, and about the work that we deliver to them. It's just so important, and we both have had a hard time trying to let go of some of those, let go of the control of some of those parts of the process. And yeah, it's just like I hate to use the term perfectionist, but I mean we both have a little bit of that streak in us.
Sure. How would you like me to introduce you?
Let's go with Sir Brian.
All right, here we go.
Start for real.
Hello, beautiful soul. It's Meka of SpiderMeka Portraits. Ever felt like your voice was stuck? After my third surgery threatened my voice in 2023, I decided silence no longer suited me, and I was done feeling like I couldn't move forward because my idea of success felt so far removed. So I launched Streams of Silk, your personal and professional journey podcast. Join me as we unravel life's threads together. Expect candid discussions, laughter, and learning. Also, we can infuse a little more ease into your life. Something smooth, something strong, shimmering, and seductive, just like spider silk. As an internationally recognized portrait and branding photographer, speaker, and storyteller based in Chicago, I empower women to embrace their natural selves and transform toxic narratives. For entrepreneurs and small businesses, I create captivating visuals that demand attention. Explore my work at SpiderMeka.com. Follow the Spider on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Subscribe for more. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Mika.
You're not English or
Mm-mm.
a knight or
Not
anything.
even close. No.
It's kind of exciting for a lot of reasons. We already said that we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics. I think this is an amazing topic for the both of us because it's what brought us together.
Right? It is.
You have, I think we both now do. We have it in our calendars. Like we've got a little bit of an anniversary going on. So
Yeah.
I tell the story a lot to people because I talk about you. I know that's not a surprise. So I want to hear your version of it. How did we meet?
Well, we were both members of the Sue Bryce education platform, which was called the Portrait Masters at the time. It's now the Portrait System, I believe. And they were starting what I think was a 6 week program.
I think it was
Maybe it was a
12
12
weeks.
week program.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it was a 12. We probably didn't last for 6 weeks, but um, it was a 12-week program. And as part of that, we had to find an accountability partner, someone else who was in that program to work with and support us and so on and so forth. And someone had reached out to me who was located in Canada. And just in the little bit of interaction that I had with this person, I wasn't too thrilled. And somehow you and I found each other. And I'm not exactly sure how, but I know that we both saw that we were in the Chicago area. And I think that instantly formed a connection with us. And looking at your work and your website, I could see that you already knew what you were doing and your work was gorgeous. So this was an easy decision for me.
I don't think I ever heard your version of the story before. I remember I was super late coming to the group and being like I had been watching it and thinking, should I do this? Should I do this? And so I just watched everybody else match up with their partners. And then was it like 3 days before it actually started? I'm like, maybe I should get a partner now. I'm clicking on other people's work and I'm like, okay, yeah. And I felt the same way when I saw your work. I was like, all right, we got someone. This is good. This is good stuff.
Well, I was thrilled because you saved me from the crazy Canadian. So, nothing against Canadian listeners in the audience, but
Just, alliteration. It just happens to be two C's together,
right,
crazy and
right.
Canadian. So, yeah, it seemed like a million years ago. You're right. I don't think we lasted 6 weeks into our actual assignments. So, like,
Right.
for the record, accountability, we learned very quickly that we're awful
We
accountability
are
partners.
awful accountability partners. Yes.
We try to do the thing where it's like, okay, what's your homework for this week? And what
Right.
are your
Yeah,
goals?
exactly. Yeah,
And
I have
you
them written down even.
And we were supposed to be done with each other after 12 weeks. It is now, what's today's date?
March 21st, 2024.
And how often have we met since then?
We've met pretty much weekly since then. There've been a few weeks that we've missed because of, out of town or family obligations or what have you. But yeah, we've kept it regular.
I tried to give you outs, Brian, several times to, cease and desist this operation, but you've refused. And so now you're in it for life, buddy, just so you know.
I am. I am. I'm good with that though.
Both of us have long, copious notes and goal setting strategies, and we pretty much accomplished nothing. That's not true.
No, that's not true.
You have, can we talk about this for a second? So when we met, I was 100% full-time photog,
Mhm.
and you, however, were not. What was going on?
Right. So I had a day job. I worked in technology for 36 years. Um, and I'd started doing some photography back in 2016, working in a shared studio space. And by about mid 2018, that space closed, and I had been looking at opening my own studio anyway. So after looking at some commercial spaces, I decided that since I'd have to invest in the space anyway, I might as well do that in my home. So um, we have a somewhat unique layout for our home. We have his and hers garages. There's a garage on either side of the house that are both attached and heated, and we weren't really using them for cars. So I took the opportunity to remodel one of those and completely transform it into a studio space for myself. And I finished that effort early 2019, and then kind of just resumed my part-time photography gig. And then, of course, the pandemic put the brakes on things in 2020, and along with that, my the demands of my daytime job kind of increased, and I just found it very challenging to get my business rolling part-time. But then last year, I had an opportunity to retire early, and I took that opportunity, and I'm now beginning to build my business on a full-time basis.
Congratulations. Welcome to the
Yeah,
fold.
thanks.
Some
Yeah,
would say you may have manifested that
some would say.
because on quite a few of our weekly occasions, you were like, I wish they would fire me.
Yeah, well, there are some benefits to being part of a staff reduction. I had been with the company for 18 years, and so I had a very nice parachute waiting for me to take that leap. So that certainly made things easier. And my wife is working, and we're in a. It was just really good timing, and we're in a good position to for me to do this without having to worry too much about, where our next meal is going to come from.
You did it the right way, not at all in the way that I did it, which 0 out of 10 would not recommend.
Right.
Just no parachute, no safety net. Just let's do this. Let's go backwards a little bit. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Your website, let's just put it out there right now so that people can see your beautiful work while we're having the rest of this discussion. Because we're about to get super, super judgy, and I just want to set the precedence for the reason why in a second.
Yeah.
Let's get it out there right away. Where can we find you?
People can find me at weithportraits.com. That's Weith portraits.com.
Okay. Thank you. And you're probably like on LinkedIn or Instagram and stuff like that
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are there too. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just search for same name. Yep.
TBD to be continued. So rewinding just a little bit, not only are we horrible, horrible accountability partners for each other, we are also, as we've said before, we share a common judgmental factor. That's part of our DNA.
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. But in a good way. Like we love all humans. We're not judgy that
Hmm.
way. But
Hmm.
when we take a lot of pride in our work, I think you would agree with that.
Yes, for sure.
And when it comes to things, all things business owner-y, right? It's like how we treat our clients, the quality of work that we put out, the entire process, like those are the nuts and bolts, the dirt, the grit of every single one of our conversations since the
Yeah, and
beginning.
I think that's one of the reasons why our conversations have continued as long as they have. We both care so much about that, about the process, about the experience that our customers have, and about the work that we deliver to them. It's just so important, and we both have had a hard time trying to let go of some of those, let go of the control of some of those parts of the process. And yeah, it's just I hate to use the term perfectionist, but I mean we both have a little bit of that streak in us.
Sure. We use the phrase recovering perfectionist or X type A kind of thing.
Mhm.
I've only recently allowed people to help me retouch or, to have a say so in my social media a little bit. We've watched each other kind of go through so many hard knocks to get to even the place where we are right now, looking for hair and makeup artists. That's something that you just went through. The curating factor, let's use that phrase for right now, that we kind of settle into is because I say it all the time. Everybody hears me say this. You throw a rock and you're going to hit somebody who's going to call themselves a photographer.
Yep.
It's Uncle Pete, Cousin Bob, everybody in between. I've got this fancy camera. What equipment do you use? And, all of a sudden they're like, yes, I do weddings and dogs and puppies and events and underwater and astral, I have a camera, so I'm going to be jack of all trades. But I mean, we started off this conversation by saying it took both of us a little while to find each other because there are just so many places that we click on. And here's this group. And this is a sensitive topic for me, and I'm sure for you, that's why we're talking about it, because this is what we do. This is our everyday, all day now. So we get to geek out and have this kind of discussion. It's different when this is your livelihood and we see quality in some other people, and it's just not at the level of how would you phrase it? Because I'm finding some
Yeah, I
trouble
mean,
finding words.
well, I think we both expect a certain standard from ourselves. Like you said, we take a lot of pride in what we do and the work that we produce, and we want our clients to love it. And so when we see other work out there that just doesn't kind of meet that threshold, we cringe a little bit,
It gets a little
and
cringy. Yeah.
yeah, and we want everyone to have the best possible experience and the best possible photos that they can have.
Should we talk about the cringe factors? Like, what is it? Because it's not just us sitting back in our chairs and, thumbing our noses at people. Like, we get the grit, we get the hard work, but what is it that we're looking at?
A lot of times it's just the way people present themselves, their
Yeah.
websites, uh, the language that they use. Um, it can be a lot of things. It can be a whole bunch of those types of things combined, or it can just be one particular thing, you
Usually it's a
know.
big combination of several things.
Yeah, usually, not always, but usually, yeah, yeah.
What can we mention one of our favorite terms? So there's a word. I'm going to spell it first.
I don't think you even have to spell it.
Boudire.
Yes.
And I know how to pronounce this word. You know how to pronounce
Hmm.
this word. But
Hmm.
someone out there who will remain nameless at this point,
Yes.
who this is literally this person's niche. This is all she
And they
does.
are exceedingly successful.
Exceedingly is such a great word.
Yeah, I mean, she really kills it, but
And
she cannot pronounce that word.
so do it, Brian. What does she say?
I believe, if I recall correctly, I believe she pronounces it Boudor or something to that effect. Bow-dure.
Bow-dure.
Bow-dure. There we go. Bow-dure. Boudor, Bow-dure. See, I can't even pronounce it wrong correctly.
I'm going to take this moment because both of our snobbery, it's showing. We're going to tuck it
Yeah,
back in
right.
just a little bit. So the word is boudoir.
Boudoir.
It's a very elegant, beautiful word.
It is.
Um, I don't call myself a boudoir photographer because, sometimes it could just kind of, I say this a lot. It kind of brings up the image of red lingerie, red lipsticks, red heels. No judgment. Seriously, no judgment if
Yeah.
that's the kind of person you are and that's what you want. But I think you would agree, Brian. Both of us, we will do that kind of photography where it's more intimate. I think that's the word that I gravitate toward.
Yeah, that's the word I gravitate towards too. In fact, I think it might even be on my site somewhere, intimate portraits.
Hmm.
I love the idea of boudoir. I love the the feeling that clients get when they do that type of portrait session or have that type of experience. It can be very empowering. It can be very transformative, and but I think at least for me, it has to be done a certain way. If you Google the word, you'll probably find a lot of really cheesy. What's the word I'm looking for? Just
Cheesy,
yeah,
tacky,
tacky, right?
cliche.
Yeah. I mean, you know, overtly. I mean, just some of the posing is just really really bad.
Yeah.
And my I mean, we have different styles, you and I, but my idea of shooting that type of photography is to almost do it without lingerie. And I don't mean nudes. I mean, let's take everyday wardrobe. Let's take an overcoat and throw it, on top of something that, you know, it's hard to explain, but it's
It's
like,
like the suggestion of it.
yeah, it's the suggestion. It's being sexy without having to reveal too much.
Mhm.
It's just a hint of it, right? I mean, yeah, I don't think that needs to be done in the traditional way that you see it a lot of the times. And I just think it can be classy. I think it can be elegant. I think it can be a lot of things that it often isn't in a lot of the portfolios that you see out there.
I think that's a beautiful way to describe it. That's how, I mean, obviously we are in agreement on a lot of things about how we feel about that style of photography. I want very much right now to explore because people are hearing your voice, you identify. as he, him, cisgender male, and yet you're doing this genre of portraiture.
Mhm.
It's confession time because we've talked a little bit about it. We kind of hint at it sometimes, but talk to me about how it feels to be a guy doing very intimate photography for women.
There are challenges with that. Um, but I think a big part of the reason that I've had a little bit of success with it so far is just the communication and the connection that I have with my clients from the very beginning. We talk in pretty great detail about the style of photography that they're looking for, what they feel comfortable with. Uh, yeah, I guess, comfort is probably a really big term for me. If you were to go through and look at some of my past reviews, I think almost unanimously you would find that word in just about every one of them.
Mhm.
I try to make my clients feel as absolutely comfortable as they can. And, you know, like I said, we talk through it. We have a plan going into it so that we are both on the same page. There's no surprises. They know what to expect. Um, and I am a very being male, I like to have a female assistant or hair and makeup artist with me who can step in and adjust hair, touch up makeup, maybe adjust clothing a little bit so that I don't have to do that. You know I'm holding the camera, so I don't really want to have to step in and do that anyway.
Yeah.
So that certainly helps. I go through a process, and I work with the clients, and we're very clear on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and they know what to expect going in, and they feel comfortable. It's kind of amazing, really. I mean, I've had people come in and just completely almost step out of themselves and just have this experience where they didn't know that they could have an experience like that and be so comfortable in front of a camera. Because most people, I mean, as we've said many times, hate having their pictures taken,
Yeah.
right? So, it's scary, it's intimidating. So yeah, I try to do as much as I can to just make them completely comfortable.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to see, and of course, the results speak for itself. Your work is absolutely stunning. So,
Thanks.
what's up with the black and white?
So I, I've been shooting color and black and white for a long time. And I started doing more black and white when I got into the studio. Um, I think, the influences that I had probably affected that to some degree. I'd been looking at fashion photography, and I'd been looking at street photography, and I'd been looking at a number of different genres. And when I just I noticed that most of the photographs that I really gravitated to, the ones that really um, spoke to me, were the black and whites. And it's not just that there's no color in them. It requires a certain type of processing where because you can have a black and white photo that's just completely desaturated, and you can have one that has very high contrast, really bright whites, really dark darks, or dark blacks, um, and there's a lot of range in between. So there's a certain look that I like, and it's just what I love, what I love to produce. I know that it's not going to resonate with everyone, but for those that it does resonate with, you know, there uh, there aren't a lot of photographers out there doing that as a specialty. So I think that makes me a little bit unique in that way.
What's something that rubs you the wrong way, totally gets your goad, either what you do or maybe the kind of people that you've come across in your work that you just need to explode and vent about?
Well, I won't explode, but you know, I like to be respectful of people's time, and last minute cancellations are probably something that just really irk me quite a bit. We can put,
I can't imagine why.
yeah, we can put measures in place, and deposits and this and that, but at the end of the day, we want our clients to enjoy the experience and to be, happy with the process and to be happy with the money they're spending. And so it's not just as it's not as simple as just saying, well, if you don't show up, you're not getting your deposit back. I mean, that's not going to really earn you a lot of friends. So, you have to sort of balance understanding, I guess, of last minute cancellations. But at the same time, it really, it puts a strain on a business when you've hired a hair and makeup artist and you've, invested time and money and reserved time for that client. So, I mean, I know that you've experienced this in your business as well, but yeah,
Oh
that's
boy,
that
have I.
yeah. So yeah, I'd say that's probably pretty high on the list.
I think so too. You and I talk so much about, like you mentioned, certain measures that we've put into place to, fingers crossed, hopefully minimize as much as we can the appearance of last minute cancellations. Of course, emergencies always happen, but for those who are just like, oh, yawn, I have a bad hair day today. I don't feel like coming in, like totally unacceptable. So here's something that I've experienced recently. I fully admit I have a few particulars and things that I have put into place as far as an agreement and an understanding. And I call them my little house rules, before coming in and talking to me. And so my darling, who I will state for the record is not my business partner in any way, um, but always has an opinion for some reason. Can't imagine why.
No way.
I right? We learned in the very beginning to educate everybody. Like, you can say what you want to say to everybody, anything you want to. You can put anything you want to into place as long as there are no surprises. Educate, educate, educate. Here's the
Mhm.
email. Let's have the conversation. Let's get on a Zoom call to discuss. I'm on the phone with you. If you
Yep.
tell everybody what's going to happen and you lay it out, typically there are no problems. Then there's the other school of thought that a lot of people are subscribing to, which is the customer is always right. And I've talked about this in other places before where let's tell the truth, because the customer is always right is not actually the entire saying or aphorism. The entire quote is the customer is always right in matters of taste, meaning their taste matters. Their taste means they chose us to be the experts, and experts do what? They tell us what to do because we don't know.
I'm glad you clarified that because I was just about to disagree with you in matters of taste as well.
Right? But not everybody knows that part. And so
Yeah.
we are the experts. So I'm in a conversation with my darling in the kitchen the other day. And he says to me, because I mentioned, some of these house rules that you and I agree are important.
Mm,
This is what we do when you show up late. This is, what we have in place to protect
right.
ourselves. And all we do is educate. And my darling says to
And
me,
and and I would also say it's not just to protect ourselves, it's also to ensure that the client gets the best possible experience, right? Because if they show up late and their hair and makeup has to be rushed or something else, there's not time for something, then they're not getting the full experience.
I love that you led with what I was going to wrap up with. So you're already there. I
Sorry to
mean,
steal your thunder.
totally stole my thunder. But that's essentially that's the point of this part of the conversation. The the explanation that I had to bring forth was that it's he kind of felt like, oh, you're gonna turn away people if you're so harsh on these ideas if you don't bend on this particular house rule. And I take a step back and I listen to feedback and I weigh it, if the shoe fits, let's see, if this is my size. And quite honestly, I kicked the shoe way across the kitchen because it did not fit. And I agree with you. It's the We put so much stock and pride and attention to the customer service, to the client process.
Mhm.
And if any of those bullet points go awry, we know that we're not servicing our people in the best way that we know how. And so it throws everything off. It shows in the service that you do, in the work that we're seeing on your site. You're doing great work. You're doing beautiful work. I tell you that all the time.
Yes, you do. And thank you.
We both have a lot more to learn. In some ways, after 8 years, I still feel like still taking baby steps in some areas and still
Mhm.
developing lots of things. And you officially have committed your days and your hours to doing this full out. So it's going to be incredibly beautiful to see the work that you're producing in your studio as we continue our camaraderie hours.
Yeah, it's exciting and terrifying at the same time. So,
I mean, as well it should be, right?
right, right. Yeah, I mean, I think starting anything new, running a business is going to be like that regardless. So, um, I'm fortunate that I've got, some of the safety net in place to take some of that fear away. But um, yeah, it's an exciting time.
You've done an incredible amount of planning. You're a planner. You're very technical. Um, Not all tech, but you definitely have a tech brain.
Yeah.
The amount of text messages that I get from you, check out this camera, here's this spec, I've lost count of. But
Uh,
but it's also something I appreciate because, when other photographers ask me, "Oh, what aperture are you using?" I can't roll my eyes hard enough.
right, right.
It's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the settings don't matter.
Settings don't matter. But you sent me something, was it yesterday, that did matter, and that was quite beautiful. Um, Another photographer, a peer, making the point that the equipment that you're holding, you have to feel it.
Mhm.
It has to inspire you. It's not
Right,
just a tool.
right.
Why did you send me that?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I know that I've geeked out a little bit on gear and that sort of thing. And I actually quite a number of years ago, I wrote a podcast post about uh choosing a camera because someone who's not a photographer asked me, uh, I'm interested in buying a camera. What camera should I buy? I mean, that's actually not the first time or the last time that I've heard that question. It's actually pretty common. And um, it's the most, at least as far as photography goes, it's probably one of the most difficult questions to answer because it's such an individual choice. And
Mm-hmm.
it depends, as far as the technical part of it. I think at one point, and maybe this is still true today, just to some degree, it depends on what your use case is. Are you going to be using it for sports? Are you going to be traveling with it? Are you going to be using it in a studio? There's all kinds of different ways to use a camera. So, and some gear has different strengths than others. But what I've found, and this was basically, the post that I wrote years ago was very similar in concept and in message to that that YouTube video that I sent you just the other day, which was, the best camera is the one that makes you want to pick it up and use it. Uh, it's how you feel when you hold it in your hand matters more than how many megapixels there are or you know how fast the shutter is. I mean, that stuff is going to just melt away. And what you're going to be left with is just how it feels. when you pick it up, and whether, like you said, whether it inspires you or not. And I've gone through over the years, I've gone through a whole lot of different cameras for different purposes, and I've used Nikon, Canon, Panasonic. I mean, you could just go on and on. But what I found is just what I said. The thing that matters the most, other than those kind of specialized cases where you need something, you need a long lens for sports or whatever, is just how it makes you feel when you use it. If you don't feel inspired, then you're not going to use it.
I will always, always drool and support the conversations about what inspires us.
Hmm.
Thanks for chatting today, B.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Once again, tell us where we can find you.
You can find me at weithportraits.com, Weith portraits.com, and it's Weith Portraits on Instagram and most of the other socials you can find me on.
If you learned some things or were inspired by this episode, tap that subscribe button now and never miss a thread. I am Meka, internationally recognized portrait and branding photographer, consultant, and speaker based in Chicago. The Streams of Silk podcast is for small business owners and their friends wanting to elevate their life experience. Follow the spider and keep listening for more ways to find connection in the chaos.